3 men were already dead before the mission had even started. That's not a metaphor. That's not a dramatic exaggeration to grab your attention. 3 British commandos, trained, elite, the best their country had, were floating face down in the Norwegian Sea before a single boot touched enemy soil, and Sergeant Thomas Hale still had a job to do. Norway, February 1943. The war had been grinding for 3 years. The Germans had occupied Norway since 1940, and in that time, they had turned the Norwegian coastline into a fortress. Gun batteries, radar installations, signal stations buried deep into the cliffs, feeding real-time intelligence across the entire North Atlantic. British convoys were dying because of those signal stations. Ships full of food, weapons, medicine, going to the bottom of the ocean because German U-boats always seemed to know exactly where they were. Someone, somewhere in Allied command, decided one particular station had to go. It sat on a rocky headland called Overmarget Eagles Rock on the southwestern Norwegian coast, a cluster of concrete buildings. Antenna arrays reaching 40 feet into the sky. A garrison of 22 German soldiers protecting it. Before we dive in, I want to know, where are you listening to this story from? Drop your city or country in the comments right now, and let's see which corner of the world has the most war legend fans. Don't just scroll. Type it out. Your comment might get featured in the next story. The plan was simple. The plan was clean. 12 British commandos would drop by parachute 8 miles inland. They'd move on foot through the night, cross a frozen lake, scale the headland from the south, the unguarded side, plant their demolition charges, and be back on the beach by 0300 hours to meet the submarine. 72 hours of planning, multiple reconnaissance photographs, a scale model built in a warehouse outside London. Every man rehearsed it until he could do it blind. They couldn't have known the weather was about to murder the plan before it began. Sergeant Thomas Hale was 31 years old. He'd grown up in Sheffield, left school at 15, worked in a factory, joined up in 1939 because he had nothing better to do, and because when he saw the recruitment poster, something in him, something he couldn't name, said yes. He had a wife, Margaret, a daughter, 4 years old, who he'd seen for a total of 11 days in the last 18 months. None of that matters right now. What matters is that Hale was the best soldier in his unit. Physically tough, calm under fire, good with explosives. His commanding officer had written in his personnel file, "Hale does not panic. This is rarer than it sounds." He was also the one who realized at altitude in the aircraft over Norway that the jump was wrong. The Lockheed Hudson banked hard through cloud. Turbulence hammered the fuselage. The dispatcher was shouting something nobody could hear over the engines. Hale pressed his face to the small porthole, darkness below. But not the right darkness. He'd studied those reconnaissance photographs for 3 days. He knew what the drop zone looked like from above. Flat farmland, a frozen lake to the north reflecting moonlight like a mirror. What he saw below was neither of those things. He saw mountains. He grabbed the dispatcher, grabbed him hard, pulled him close. "We're off course." The dispatcher shook his head, pointed at his watch, pointed down. "This is it, jump time." Hale looked at his 12 men in full winter kit, parachutes, weapons, 70 pounds of demolition equipment between them, looking at him, waiting. The red light turned green. They jumped anyway. What happened next took less than 4 minutes and destroyed the mission. The winds at altitude were nothing like the forecast. A weather system was moving in from the northwest, fast, unseen, unreported. At the moment the 12 men left the aircraft, those winds were blowing at over 40 knots. The drop zone was 8 miles inland. They landed 16 miles off target, not in farmland, not near any lake. They landed on a mountain slope, in darkness, in wind-driven snow, on terrain so steep and icy that 3 men simply couldn't stop sliding. Their parachutes caught the wind, dragged them sideways across the rock face, and sent them off an unseen cliff edge in the darkness. Hale heard them go. He couldn't see them. He heard the sound, the brief shout, the sudden silence, and then there was nothing. He dug his heels into the ice and stopped himself. Lay there in the wind, heart slamming, and counted the survivors by their flashlight signals. He counted 8. He counted again, still 8. 3 gone. Mission profile, 12 men. Current status, 8 men, 16 miles off target on an exposed mountain in a gathering blizzard. With no communications, the radio operator was one of the men they'd just lost. No comms. No accurate position. A blizzard coming. and a signal station that still needed to be destroyed. Hale lay in the snow and made a decision in under 30 seconds. Move, now, or die on this mountain. He gathered the 8 survivors in a tight group behind a rock outcrop. He had to shout to be heard over the wind. Morrison's gone. Fletcher's gone. Fletcher's gone. Davis is gone. He said it fast. No pause for grief. No time. We adjust. The mission doesn't change. We move south, off this mountain, find our position, and we keep going. Corporal Eddie Marsh was crouched next to him. Marsh was 23, from Liverpool, with the kind of face that looked permanently skeptical. He'd been with Hale since North Africa. We're 16 miles off, Sergeant. Maybe more. We've got, he checked his watch, 7 hours before dawn. I know. 7 hours, 16 miles, unknown terrain. I know, Eddie. The blizzard's going to, I know. Hale met his eyes. I need you to know it too, and then I need you to keep moving. Can you do that? Marsh looked at him for a moment, then nodded. They moved. The mountain descent took 2 hours and nearly killed them twice. The slope dropped sharply in the darkness, and without a radio, without confirmed maps, they were navigating by compass and instinct. Private Kowalski, big, quiet, Polish-born, British uniform, went through a snow cornice that looked solid and wasn't. He dropped 6 feet into a hidden gully and came out with a wrenched shoulder that made him hiss through his teeth for the rest of the night, but didn't stop him moving. They found a frozen stream at the mountain's base and followed it south. Standard navigation. Water runs downhill, leads to coast. Hale kept checking his compass, kept doing the math in his head. 16 miles. 7 hours, 6 hours now. Still 16 miles. The blizzard hit them hard at 01:45 hours. Wind that leaned into you like a physical force. Snow horizontal. Visibility down to 10 meters. They kept moving. Because what was the alternative? Stop and freeze. Go back? Go back where? There was only forward. Hale had learned this somewhere. He couldn't remember if it was in training or just from living. The worst thing you can do in a crisis is stop. Not because stopping means dying, though sometimes it does, but because stopping means dying, though sometimes it does, but because stopping means thinking. And in the middle of a catastrophe, thinking about the full scale of what's gone wrong is the fastest way to fall apart. So you don't stop. You don't think about the big picture. You pick the next rock, the next tree, the next 10 meters. He picked the next rock. They came off the mountain at 0308 Ls, found flat ground, then pine forest. Then, through the trees, the distant flat gray shimmer of the sea. Hale pulled them up. 8 men in a rough circle, breathing hard, ice on their beards, fingers numb despite the gloves. He checked his map against his compass, looked at the coastline. We're here. His finger tapped the map, about 3 miles south of target. Marsh leaned over. That means the headland is north. Yes, along the coast, in daylight. Hale looked at his watch. 03I, 17 hours. Dawn in under 2 hours. He did the calculation. 3 miles along a coastal route. German garrison alert status, unknown. Cover limited, rocky terrain. Open cliff paths. If they pushed hard, very hard, they could reach the station before dawn. Maybe. If we go now, said Private Weber, a quiet man from Devon who'd barely spoken all night, we'll be climbing the headland in half-light. They'll see us. If we wait, said Marsh, we miss the submarine window. It holds until 0300 tomorrow night. Then it leaves. Everyone understood what that meant. Miss the submarine, and there was no extraction. They'd be stranded in occupied Norway, in winter, with no comms, German patrols everywhere. Hale folded the map. We go now, fast. We hit the station at dawn or just before. We don't have the luxury of timing anymore. Nobody argued. There was nothing to argue with. They moved along the coast in single file, hugging the tree line where it existed, crossing open ground in short sprints. The blizzard had passed. The wind had dropped. The sky was beginning to lighten at the edges, that thin, cold, Norwegian pre-dawn gray that turns the snow blue. Beautiful. Completely irrelevant. At 4:28, Private Reese held up his fist. Everyone froze. Hale moved up to the front. Reese pointed. 50 meters ahead, with a path bent around a rock. A cigarette ember glowed in the dark. A sentry. Hale held up one finger. Single target, then pointed at himself and Marsh. We handle it. They went wide, off the path, across snow-covered ground, stepping carefully, avoiding stones. The sentry was leaning against the rock, facing the sea, cigarette cupped in his hand. German army. Winter coat, rifle on his shoulder. Hale and Marsh came from either side. 30 seconds, no sound. The sentry was alive, unconscious, tied with paracord and placed gently as frozen hands allowed, in the snow behind the rock. Hale signaled the others forward. They moved. On a baguette, Eagle's Rock rose ahead of them in the dawn light. Concrete buildings visible at the top. Antenna masts. A generator hut. Light in one window. The southern approach was steep but doable. Loose rock, patches of frozen grass, a few places where the cliff face gave good handholds. Hale studied it for 60 seconds. Kowalski, you're on the demolition charges. Shoulder, okay? Functional, said Kowalski. Marsh, you're with me up the face. Rees and Weber, you hold the base. Anyone comes down that path, you handle them quiet. Brennan, Carter, Mills, spread along the lower cliff line. Watch our flanks. Everyone clear? They were professionals. Spread along the lower cliff line. Watch our flanks. Everyone clear. They were professionals. Whatever else had gone wrong tonight, and plenty had, these men were still sharp. Hale began to climb. The cliff face was 30 meters of exposed rock and ice. He moved fast. Not recklessly. He'd seen what reckless climbing did on the mountain, but fast. Marsh was right below him, breathing hard, keeping pace. Halfway up, a light came on in one of the upper buildings. Hale pressed himself flat against the rock. Someone moving past a window. A silhouette. Soldier. Moving away, not looking out. He waited, counted to 10, moved again. 15 meters from the top, his right handhold gave way. A chunk of frozen rock cracked loose, and for one terrible half-second he was falling, weight swinging out from the cliff face, left hand clawing, and then his boot found a ledge and he was back, pressed against the rock. Heart slamming so hard he could feel it in his neck. Marsh, below him, had grabbed a fistful of Hale's jacket, had caught him without thinking. Their eyes met. Marsh raised an eyebrow. Still alive? Hale gave a single nod. Still alive. They kept climbing. They came over the top of the cliff at 0451 hours. The signal station compound was right there. 20 meters away, a low wire fence, not electrified, just a marker. Beyond it, the generator hut, the main signals building, 2 smaller outbuildings, and the antenna array. And 5 German soldiers standing in a loose cluster outside the main building, passing around a thermos of something hot. Not a sentry patrol, breakfast break. 5 soldiers, armed, awake. 12 meters from where Hale and Marsh were lying flat on cold rock, not breathing, watching. This was not in the plan. The plan had assumed the garrison would be indoors at this hour. The plan had assumed a lot of things that had stopped being true about 8 hours ago. Hale had 2 options. Wait. Hope the soldiers went back inside. Then move in, plant the charges, get out. Risk more soldiers might appear. Dawn was breaking. Visibility increasing by the minute. Or go now, take the 5 soldiers head on, fast, before they raised an alarm. 5 against 2. Terrible odds. But Hale had Rees and Weber at the base of the cliff, Kowalski with the demolition charges coming up right behind him, and 3 more men on the flanks. He pulled out his signal mirror, flashed once toward the cliff base. He waited. Flash back, Rees, ready. He looked at Flash. Back, Rees, ready. He looked at Marsh, held up 5 fingers, pointed at the soldiers. Marsh looked at the 5 men, looked back at Hale, mouthed one word. Brilliant. Hale almost smiled. What happened the next 90 seconds was not elegant. It was not like the films. It was not precise and clean. It was fast and clean. It was fast and brutal and loud. Hale and Marsh went over the wire at a run. Hale took the 2 nearest soldiers before they could process what was happening. Because that's how it works. The human brain takes a full second to register genuine threat, and a second is a very long time. The other 3 reacted faster than expected. One got to his rifle. One shouted, a sharp, single German word that echoed off the concrete buildings. Marsh hit the man with the rifle hard. The 3rd man was reaching for a door handle, going for an alarm, and Hale was not close enough, was too far, would not make it. A shot. Clean single from the cliff edge. Kowalski just crested the top, rifle in his good hand. The shot took the soldier in the shoulder, spun him, put him on the ground. Loud. Too loud. Inside the building, someone was shouting. Hale sprinted to the main door, hit it shoulder first. It opened inward. Old wood, no match for a running man in full kit. 2 soldiers inside, both going for weapons. The next 20 seconds are not worth describing in detail. What matters is, when it was over, Hale and Marsh were both still standing. The station was secure. They had maybe 5 minutes before someone came to find out why there had been a gunshot. "Charge! Charge! Charge! Charges! Now!" Kowalski was already moving, one arm half useless, using his teeth to pull straps loose and his good hand to work the equipment. He was the best demolitions man Hale had ever seen. Even now, injured, moving through an unfamiliar building, working one-handed, he moved like he'd designed the place himself. "Main transmitter," said Hale. "I see it. Generator. Yes, antenna junction box. There, on the wall. Sergeant." Kowalski's voice was completely flat, completely calm. "I know what I'm doing." He did. Hale and Morris hit the signal flare. One red, one green, out the window toward the coast. The prearranged signal to the submarine that the mission was proceeding. It felt almost absurd to send it. Proceeding was generous, but the submarine needed to know someone was still alive. 4 minutes of work. 4 minutes of Kowalski placing charges while Hale and Marsh stood at the windows and watched the approaches. At 3 minutes 40 seconds, Marsh said quietly, "Vehicle, South Road." Hale looked. Headlights. Moving fast. A truck. 2 minutes out, maybe less. "Kowalski, one more. We don't have time. One more minute, or we lose the antenna relay and the charges at the generator won't be enough." Kowalski didn't look up. 1 minute? Hale looked at the headlights, looked at Marsh. Marsh shrugged. 1 minute. Hale looked at the headlights, looked at Marsh. Marsh shrugged. 1 minute. It was the longest minute Thomas Hale ever spent. The headlights bounced on the rough road. Getting closer. He could hear the truck engine now. Diesel, heavy, running fast. He could see figures in the cab. 2, maybe 3. He could see the truck was not stopping. Kowalski, done. The big pole straightened up, timer in hand. "Set for 2 minutes. We need to move." They moved, out the door over the wire, to the cliff edge. Rees and Weber were already at the base, ready. Hale went over the edge first, moving fast, not carefully, not climbing so much as controlled falling, hands and boots on rock, gravity doing the work. Behind him, he heard the truck screech to a halt at the compound entrance. German voices, shouting. He hit the bottom of the cliff, stumbled, ran. Marsh landed 5 seconds behind him. Kowalski, one-armed, slower, was still on the face. "Rees, help him." Rees was already moving. Up the lower section of the cliff, grabbing Kowalski's belt, taking some of the weight. German soldiers appearing at the cliff top, looking down. A rifle cracked. Rock splintered near Kowalski's head. Keep moving. Another shot. And another. Kowalski and Rees hit the bottom in a controlled collapse. Half fall, half slide. And then all 8 men were running. 3 minutes and 20 seconds after they cleared the cliff, the charges detonated. Hale heard it without looking back. First the generator, a deep, concussive thump that he felt in his chest. Then the transmitter, sharper, more metal in the sound. Then the antenna relay, and that one made the ground shake even from 300 meters away. He looked back. The top of Werneberge was on fire. The concrete buildings were still standing. Charges can't level concrete, not with what they carried. But the equipment inside, the transmitters, the relay systems, the irreplaceable electronic components that fed intelligence across the North Atlantic, those were ash. Hale turned back to the coast and kept running. The Germans were fast, faster than they should have been, which meant either the truck had radioed ahead or there were more soldiers in the area than the reconnaissance had shown. Probably both. Hale's group hit the beach at 05:34 hours. The sky was properly light now, that flat, pale Norwegian winter light that left nowhere to hide. The beach was 150 meters of open shingle. They were halfway across it when the first German squad appeared on the coastal path to the north. Weber saw them. "Contact north, 8, maybe 10, running, running." The submarine, HMS Tactician, somewhere out there in the gray water, had been signaled. Whether it had seen the flare was another question. Whether it would surface with a German squad 200 meters away was the most important question of all. Hale hit the waterline. The water was shockingly cold, even through his boots. He waded into his knees, then his thighs, looking for the dark shape of a conning tower. Shots behind him. His men were shooting back, controlled bursts, covering fire, buying seconds. He searched the water. There, 120 meters out, the conning tower breaking the surface, water streaming off it, black against the gray sea. He fired his remaining signal flare. Come in now. A light blinked from the conning tower. Then, the shape began moving toward shore. As close as it dared, they had to swim for it. February, Norwegian Sea, 0 degrees. Swimming is the wrong word for what a man does in water that cold. It's more like fighting. Your muscles lock, your lungs seize. Your body begins making decisions about which parts of you to save and which to abandon. Hale went in first, Marsh right behind him. He counted his men going into the water. 5, 6, 7, Kowalski. The big man was still at the waterline, turned around, still firing, covering them, one-armed, his rifle braced against his hip. Kowalski, now, someone has to. He didn't shout it, just said it over his shoulder, toward the water, toward Hale's voice. On the beach, the German squad was 30 meters away. Kowalski was in their line of fire. By being in their line of fire, he was keeping them pinned, keeping their heads down, keeping them from shooting at 8 men in the water. Kowalski! The rifle clicked empty. He turned, walked into the water, and started swimming. He was strong, even one-armed. Hale watched him come. The German squad reached the waterline, started shooting. Into the water. Shots hitting the surface in small, violent splashes around the swimming men. Cold, dark. Shooting. Keep swimming. Keep swimming. Keep swimming. Grabbed. The next. Marsh, Rees, Weber, Mills, Carter, Brennan, 7. Where was Kowalski? Surfaced right below him, gasping, one huge hand grabbing the hull. Hale grabbed his wrist with both hands and pulled with everything he had left. 8. 8 men on the hull. Down. Down, Zent. Get down. The hatch opened. They went in, one by one, as fast as frozen bodies could move. Hale was last. Always last, and he heard the shots hitting the water on the hull as he dropped through the hatch and someone pulled it closed above him. The submarine was already diving. Thomas Hale sat on the floor of the submarine control room, back against a pipe, soaking wet, shaking so hard his teeth clicked together. Around him, 7 men in the same condition. No one spoke for a while. Then Marsh said through chattering teeth, "Well, that was terrible." No one laughed, but a few men smiled. The kind of smile that happens when the body suddenly realizes it's still alive and doesn't know what else to do. The submarine commander crouched in front of Hale. Young man, clean uniform, dry. Did you complete the objective? Hale looked at him. The station. Gone, said Hale. The transmitters. Gone. And the antenna, I said gone. He said it without heat, just tiredness. We lost 3 men on the drop. We were 16 miles off target. We had no radio, no accurate maps, a blizzard, an unexpected patrol, an unexpected vehicle, and a garrison that came at us from 2 sides at once. He paused. But the station's gone. The commander looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Then it worked. In the official debrief, 6 days later, in a prefabricated building outside London, the mission was classified as a partial success. The signal station was destroyed, confirmed. Aerial reconnaissance showed the antenna masts down, the relay building gutted. German naval intelligence communications in that sector were disrupted for 11 weeks. In those 11 weeks, 3 Allied convoys passed through the North Atlantic without significant U-boat interception. What the official report didn't mention, the names of the 3 men who went into the Norwegian mountainside. Morrison, Fletcher, Davis. Their families received telegrams, lost in action, details classified. Their names weren't on any monument, weren't in any history book. No one gave speeches about them. They died before the mission even started, caught by wind and darkness in a mountain they never knew was there. Sergeant Thomas Hale received the military medal. There was no ceremony, just a colonel handing him a small box across the desk saying, "Well done, Sergeant," and moving on to the next item of business. Kowalski received the same. He lost partial use of his left arm, the wrenched shoulder, the swimming in freezing water, but was back on operational duty within 4 months. Marsh was recommended for promotion. He turned it down, said he didn't want the paperwork. Hale went home on leave. 2 weeks. He sat at his kitchen table in Sheffield, and his daughter climbed into his lap and asked him where he'd been. He said, "Work." She accepted this. 4-year-olds do. Margaret put a cup of tea in front of him and said nothing. She'd learned, in 3 years of this, that there was nothing useful to say. He wasn't the same man who'd left. He'd be different again next time. She loved the man in front of her, and asked no questions about the man he'd been somewhere else. He drank the tea, Outside, Sheffield was gray and cold and completely, beautifully ordinary. People walking to work, buses, a dog barking somewhere. He sat there for a long time, not thinking about the mountain or the cold water or the gunfire, not thinking about Morrison or Fletcher or Davis, just drinking tea, just watching the street, just letting the ordinary world be ordinary for a little while, before whatever came next. The signal station on Orneberget was rebuilt by the Germans within 6 months, with a heavier garrison and stronger defenses. Allied command decided the cost of attacking it again was too high. They found another way. Because that's the thing about war that no recruitment poster and no monument and no official history quite captures. Most of the sacrifice doesn't change the final outcome. Most of the suffering doesn't tip the balance. Most of the men who go into the dark don't come back holding victory in their hands. They come back holding 8 men. Or they don't come back at all. And it was enough. It had to be enough. Because in those 11 weeks, 11 quiet weeks when the convoys moved and the U-boats missed and the ships reached port, men who would otherwise have drowned did not drown. Children who would otherwise have had no fathers kept their fathers. The names of those children are not recorded anywhere. Neither are the names of the men who made it possible. That's how it works. That's always how it works.